Hello, thank you so much for watching or listening to the podcast. This is Talking Sports with Evan. I am Evan Witalis, and I want to thank you all for being a part of the show here. And a lot to discuss, lots to go over. Obviously, the Packers season did not end the way none of us wanted it to end, and that's obviously unfortunate. But that's just the way it is. So I will be talking some Packers and 49ers and talk about where the Packers go from here as they have a lot of difficult decisions to make. And I'm going to talk about what some of those are. Um, there are some NFL coaching positions filling up. The Bears made their hire today, the defensive coordinator for the Colts. He got that job. Nathaniel Hackett gets the Denver Broncos job, and kind of going to give my thought a little bit about Nathaniel Hackett going to Denver and my feelings on that. And I'm also going to, it's going to so I was going to. And I'm still going to talk a little bit about Jordan Love and if Rodgers does in fact leave Green Bay. Um, Kind of give my thoughts there and where the Packers go in the quarterback position from there. But one of the comparisons I was going to use today ended up opening his mouth and being a bigger idiot than he normally is. I think he outdoes himself every time he opens his mouth, and I'm going to get into that momentarily. I know you see something new here in the top corner of the screen, Talking Sports with Evan logo. That is thanks to Dakota Mitchell. He designed the logo for me, and I have a few other things I can throw up there too that I enjoy that he made. You have this design here, that one here, and then you have the state with the microphone in it. So I greatly appreciative to Dakota for making the Talking Sports with Evan logo, and he does have a website where he also sells shirts. Which, if you watch last week's show, you see the link. But this is it right here. His shirts. You go to this site and you can follow him on Twitter. Obviously, not this shirt. This is a Iron Jock shirt, but the shirt I was wearing in last week's show or Saturday's show, the 12 plus 17 equals 6. That's where you could get that shirt. But before I go, into the depth of the Packers and 49ers, I kind of want to start off with a comment that former 49er quarterback Jeff Garcia made in reference to Mina Kimes. Uh, Mina Kimes is an extremely talented, extremely intelligent, extremely entertaining um, journalist with ESPN. She has her own podcast. She steps in on multiple shows across all the ESPN platforms, and she knows a lot about sports and a lot about football, more so than me. I'm willing to admit that. And she probably knows a lot more than a lot of people too who play the game. Jeff Garcia came out today and commented that because she jokingly commented that Jimmy Garoppolo is that guy who doesn't really do anything on the group project, but still gets an A. Which in reality, that's kind of what Jimmy Garoppolo's been. He didn't do anything special whatsoever on Saturday. He didn't do anything special whatsoever really against Dallas. He almost threw the game away, but yet the 49ers are here still alive. And she's not wrong. She really not. And she made that joke. And Jeff Garcia did say that because she's a woman, she shouldn't have a platform to talk football because she's never played the game, so she doesn't understand it. And to me, that is a ludicrous comment. Is he saying that if you've never played a sport, you shouldn't talk about it? So there's a lot of male journalists, male hosts, Stephen A. Smith, for example, who never played professional basketball or football, never played quarterback. Does that mean that they shouldn't discuss it, or does he specifically mean women shouldn't discuss it? Because I have a problem with that. because there is a lot of very talented women who cover sports, who talk about sports, who write about sports, who podcast about sports, who video live stream about sports, who do play by play, color commentary, you name it, they do. And like I said, they know a hell of a lot more than me, and they're a hell of a lot more talented than me. Um, so I have a problem with that comment from Jeff Garcia. Jeff Garcia came across as a sexist with that comment, and it was extremely unnecessary. And the people that came to Mina's defense, great job, because there's no place for Jeff Garcia whining and complaining about how she shouldn't have a platform or say anything about sports because she didn't play. Again, that's ludicrous. You can understand the game of football. You can understand the game of baseball. You can understand the sport of basketball with never have played the game. You can. It's possible. And she is one of many examples out there. There's a lot of people that have played the game of football and baseball and basketball that aren't very good at analyzing it. Alex Rodriguez is an example of that. He is not. I don't like Alex Rodriguez on Sunday Night Baseball, and now they're going to give Alex Rodriguez his own little Manning cast because ESPN wants to basically hit that well one too many times. It works with Peyton Manning. It works with Eli Manning. It's not going to work with every freaking broadcast they do to do their own a different variation of the Manning cast. It's just not going to work. And baseball is not really a sport that it's going to work in. At the end of the day, it's not going to work. And again, just because you play the sport doesn't mean you're good at analyzing it. Obviously, Jeff Garcia is an example of that with his asinine comments today. So that's where I'm going to end with this little rant here, is that just because you are female or just because you didn't play a sport doesn't mean you don't know what you're talking about. Go to Game On Wisconsin, go to Cheesehead TV. Maggie Looney, she's one that's extremely talented. Jen Mack, just to name a couple. They do great work on their platforms. I check their stuff out quite often. Lily Zhao, who's Fox 6 sports reporter. She's great at what she does. A lot of great women who cover the Packers for Channel 12, Channel 11, whatever they have up in Green Bay area for TV, and they do a great job. And then Bailey Burmeister, who is now in Cleveland, used to cover the Packers. Again, great at what she does. So Jeff Garcia needs to, kind of think more before he speaks. And sometimes, shouldn't open your mouth, because the debate if you are a moron or not ends sometimes when you open your mouth. And the debate if Jeff Garcia is a moron or not ended as soon as he opened his mouth. So I'm going to leave it at that. So moving on, Packers and 49ers played on Saturday, and I guess I should first say this. I was as wrong could be for the divisional round. The only game I got correct on my predictions was the Rams and the Buccaneers. I was 13 seconds away from being right with Buffalo, but apparently Buffalo can't finish a game with 13 seconds to go. So again, I was almost right, but but Buffalo had other plans and decided to kind of ruin things a little bit. So so yeah. So so yeah. So I was as wrong could be when it comes to making my predictions with this divisional round. So the expression is you shouldn't quit your day job. I am a perfect example of you shouldn't quit your day job. Some people are good at making their predictions. Other people, like me, horrible. So just going to leave it at that. So I have a legal pad here. Jotted down a bunch of notes. on kind of what I wanted to discuss in regard to the Packers and 49ers. The Packers fell to the 49ers. Final score 13-10. And I kind of made a list of who's to blame for the game. Made a list of who is to blame for the Packers loss. And Tim, great question. Going to get to the Bengals next. And going to get to the AFC and NFC the championship games next. So stay tuned for that. But right now, so why did the Packers lose to the 49ers? Because I've seen a lot of people just saying that Aaron Rodgers is a big choke artist. All he does is choke. He's awful in the playoffs, which is a little extreme because he's been more good than he's been bad in the playoffs. He's just had a few bad games, unfortunately, 2 in a row. In the NFC Championship game last year, and it's really a bad fourth quarter, really. Wasn't a bad game. It was a bad fourth quarter, especially late in the game. And then with the 49ers, it was a bad game overall. So I think we're being a little overreactionary to Aaron Rodgers. I think some of us are still mad and upset over what happened during the offseason with him seemingly trying to force his way out of Green Bay. Did he actually try to? I don't know. I don't know the full story. I don't think we ever will. And then I think some people with his comments he's made on Pat McAfee throughout the year, a lot of it I don't agree with. I don't agree with his vaccination stance. I don't agree with his propaganda, anti-vaccine type propaganda he's spoken. And I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is anti-vaccine, but that's how it's coming across. And he has a big platform. People cling to what he says. So when you're in the public eye like him, maybe you should be a little bit more cautious of how you say things. The big thing he's trying to say, I'm not trying to speak for Aaron Rodgers, but the big thing he's trying to say is taking every piece of information you can possibly take in and then come to your conclusion. But that's not how he's saying it. And he's coming across as, I guess, a Looney Tune in some regards. I don't really give him any care for what he has to say. I watch Aaron Rodgers, the football player. I don't watch Aaron Rodgers, the guest of Pat McAfee. I watch him to play football, and I'm not saying he shouldn't speak his mind. I'm not saying he shouldn't say what he wants to say, but I'm saying is I choose not to engage in his other platforms that he has out there that he does. The platform I choose to engage in is him on Sunday afternoons or Sunday evenings playing football. Great quarterback, has done great things for Green Bay, both on and off the field. Great things for the state of California, but I don't really care I don't really care about the other stuff. So anyways, back to my main point. Who is to say, who's to blame for the game? And my key thing, my first people to blame is the special teams unit. And I know it's easy to say that the special teams has been bad all season long. So how can you blame the special teams because you expect them to be bad? Well, yeah, you can still blame the special teams. The kickoff return unit allowed 2 returns for 59 yards to Samuel, a long of 45. Deebo Samuel, he had a long of 45. Put the ball at midfield, so the 49ers offense gets the ball at the 50 rather than the 25 or the 30. And the 49ers march about 30 yards and kick a field goal to make it 7-3. If the coverage team does their job, if Mason Crosby kicks it out of the end zone and they get the ball to 25 to 30 yard line range instead of the 50, the 49 and they gain 30 yards, they're likely punting instead of kicking a field goal, or they're trying a really long field goal, which I don't think a near 40-year-old kicker could make. So they made Robbie Gould's job a lot easier. They made the offense's job a lot easier on a kick return to the 50. Blocked field goal. Right before halftime, Packers get a big play from Aaron Jones, which I'll touch on that Aaron Jones play in a moment. They get a big play from Aaron Jones, 75 yards catch and run. The next play, Rodgers gets sacked. And unfortunately, they didn't have a timeout left, so they had to spike it because timeout management could have been better in this game. They line up for a field goal. They kick it, and it's no good. It gets blocked. And if you look back to week 3, when the Packers played the 49ers, if you look back to week 3, in week 3, the game-winning field goal, they came very close to blocking it off the right side, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tyler Lancaster is over on that side. He was a little back, and he was basically standing square to the line of scrimmage, giving a rusher a free lane pretty much inside on the kick. This time, in the NFC divisional round, Tyler Lancaster's playing the left side. Lined up identical to how he lined up in week 3. Gave up the inside lane. Didn't actually block anybody. He kind of made a half attempt at the outside guy. But the rule of thumb when you're playing the line, either offensive line, either kickoff, either field goal, kick, punt, the rule of thumb is you block inside first. Protect the inside because that is the quickest way to get to the kicker. They are the one that is going to be most likely to disrupt the kick. So John Kuhn, if you find him on Twitter, he tweeted out a picture of the formation, and you see Tyler Lancaster square to the line of scrimmage, and there's a gap between him and the next guy next to him. He's giving the Jimmy Ward a free lane to rush and block the kick. If that kick is made, if that kick is not blocked and it's good, we're talking about 10-0 going into halftime. And even if San Francisco gets that big return in a field goal, it's 10-3 right there. The Packers ended up kicking another field goal later in the game to make it 13-3. It would have made it would have been 13-3 at that point. You had a block punt that the 49ers scouted Green Bay really well on special teams. They tend to play more starters, obviously, on their special teams unit. And Kyle Shanahan, obviously, and their special teams coach obviously saw stuff on film that the Packers do to take advantage of it. As I explained, Tyler Lancaster playing the last man on the line of scrimmage on the field goal that got blocked. The long snapper, they lined a 300-pound plus defensive tackle, nose tackle, right over the long snapper and had him rush right up the middle. Because the personal protector, Henry Black, he proceeded to leave right away. And I'm guessing that's what Shanahan saw. That Henry Black, as soon as the ball is snapped, he takes off because he's trying to get downfield to try to make a tackle. So if you get pressure on the long snapper, you can drive him back into the punter, get the hand up, block it. It fell right into a hand of another 49er and ran right in for a touchdown. So tip your hat to Kyle Shanahan and the special teams coach for the 49ers because they did their job. They did their homework, and they exploited the Packers' very lackluster this season special teams. They exploited it. There's no other way to put it. And then, so now it's 10-7, 10-10 after that. If you take away the 49er getting the ball at midfield, and they have to punt, now you're looking at 10-7 or 13-7. And then if you take away, if you make that field goal, again, it's 13-7 if you have that block punt. Special teams of the Packers, no favors. And then the final punt that led to the 49ers scoring, there was a false start. So that's 5 less yards the ball went. and the 49ers didn't have as much room to go. And I'm sure they were in the Packers' head with the punt after the block, so I'm sure the punter didn't get that great of a punt off. So that is why I blame special teams. They had a season worth of blunders, a whole season worth of blunders in just this one game. Big return, blocked field goal, blocked punt, and final score 13-10. So that is why if I had to do a bar graph of blame, I would put about 60% of the blame on special teams, 60 to 70%. The offense, although it didn't play good, it did not. If special teams didn't screw it up, even with how bad Aaron played after that opening drive, even with how bad the offense played overall, even with how bad the offensive line was in that game, the Packers still win the game if special teams does their job. It's that simple. It really is. It's that simple. If special teams does their job, the Packers win, even with the way the offense played. So the offense, I would say they get about 30 to 40% of the blame. They had 67 yards on 20 carries. And after the kickoff return, after the 49ers got on the board to make it 7-3, A.J. Dillon got hurt. And I think that was a huge loss. The Packers then, after that kickoff, were able to drive it to about the 5 or 10 yard line. And that was a situation we saw in the opening drive. They put A.J. Dillon in, and he drove it down their throats and into the end zone. They obviously missed A.J. Dillon. The Packers had between Davante Adams and Aaron Jones, 18 catches on 21 targets. There were 6 targets for 1 catch for everybody not named Aaron Jones and Davante Adams. This Packer offense, which is the Kyle Shanahan, basically it's from the Mike Shanahan tree if you really want to if you really want to dissect it. It's a variation of the Mike Shanahan offense. Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, they all run their own kind of variation with it. They were all in Washington together, Kyle Shanahan and LaFleur were in Atlanta together. But it's based, everything is built off the run and quick passes. Get the ball out, short passes across the middle, attack the middle, just get the ball to the open man, let the open man make a play. That's what the offense is kind of centered around. In this game, Aaron Rodgers went back to old habits. Back in 2018, Rodgers would, I would say, freelance a lot. He would lock in on Davante, look to make the big play down the field rather than just taking what the defense is giving him. Get the ball out, let Aaron Jones, let Lazard, let Randall Cobb, let Dillon, let Degara, let those guys catch it and do something. He was very focused, laser-eyed on Davante only. He was not playing on schedule. And I know he had some pressure, a lot of pressure early on, especially kind of knocked him off his spot a little bit, probably rattled him. He's thinking he has to move around more in the pocket. And he's looking to make that big play. Because in reality, if the Packers could make a big play and score another touchdown, the 49ers aren't winning. The 49ers were literally doing nothing offensively to win this game. They just weren't. But he was too laser focused, too locked in on forcing things to Davante. And the last offensive play of the game for Green Bay is perfect evidence of this. You had Allen Lazard breaks open, wide open across the middle. You hit Lazard there. He possibly goes for 6. If not 6, you're in great field goal range, and you can work on trying to kill the clock and run this clock out. EQ was starting to get separation from his guy. And if Rodgers could put the ball there on EQ, if it doesn't go for a touchdown, it's a big game. But even before the ball was snapped, he knew where he was going with that ball, no matter what San Francisco did. He was locked in on Davante. Davante is doing the deep post across the middle. That's where he's going with the ball, no matter what the safety does. The hope is a safety either comes down to cover Lazard or goes to cover EQ. But in that situation, they're not leaving Davante one-on-one no matter what. They're leaving two men on Davante no matter what. And the Packers weren't prepared for that. Or I should say Aaron Rodgers wasn't prepared for that. The protection was good. I know the protection wasn't good most of the game, but the protection was good. He didn't trust the protection. He didn't trust his other targets. He had on the second down play on that series, Deguara wide open in the middle. Instead, he tried to force it to Cobb. It wasn't Aaron Rodgers' best day. It wasn't Aaron Rodgers' best fourth quarter. Because if they score a touchdown on one of their final two drives, or even one more touchdown during the rest of the game, they win. And people always want to point the finger at the play call. The play calling wasn't good. The play calling was bad. It wasn't that the play calling was bad. And I love Aaron Rodgers, the football player, but Aaron Rodgers, the football player, did not play well enough in this game, and he didn't play within the offense. Again, if he plays within the offense, he's going to get other guys involved underneath, which is going to open up Davante Adams down the field. And yeah, that play call is disappointing, and wasn't disappointing because the play call itself. It was disappointed because he was looking for Adams no matter what. Because again, Lazard was wide open in the middle. EQ was wide open doing the post corner. And Deguara got open, I think, on that play as well. But he was locked in. If Rodgers, and it also goes back to the Saints game early on in week one, where he was trying to play what I call hero ball. Take what the defense gives you, and it's going to open things up top, because then the defense is going to start coming closer to the line of scrimmage to try to take away the underneath stuff, and Lazard or Adams is going to break open and you're going to hit him. We saw it in the Los Angeles Rams game in the divisional round last year. The clinching touchdown to Lazard, to deep down the field to Lazard, that winning touchdown pass ended up being giving the Packers enough room in the final score to win that game. The Rams are playing for stuff short because the Packers are killing them with their short dig routes, crossing routes, things like that they were able to hit Lazard on a deep bomb for a touchdown. He got behind the coverage because they kind of forced forced the Rams to have to play closer to the line of scrimmage. The Packers never, and Aaron Rodgers never allowed, after that opening drive and that second drive before the fumble, which I'll get to in a minute, they never allowed for the San Francisco's defense to have to play the short stuff. They were just bracketing, shadowing, double coveraging Davante because they knew Rodgers wasn't going to go anywhere else. And the 49ers dominated up front too. I think Matt LaFleur gets some blame too. And I like Matt LaFleur. I think he's a great football mind. I think he's a great leader of men. But the combination of not seriously addressing special teams falls on him. He gave the job to a underqualified coach, the assistant coach for the coach they just fired a year ago. That's who he hired. And the other issue I have is you didn't have David Bakhtiari all year. And there's a great article at Cheesehead TV that there's an interview with Bakhtiari where he kind of explained what was going on with his knee. Apparently, his knee kept collecting fluid. Structurally, the knee was fine, but it kept collecting fluid. And great article. Again, go cheeseheadtv.com and check out the article. But the fact that you don't go with what you've done all year long, and I get you got Myers back from injury, so I'm fine with Josh Myers going in at center. He could have played better, but fine. But Yash Nijman has played very good at left tackle the whole season long. In the 8 games that he started, including week 3 against San Francisco, his first career start, I will admit I was kind of shocked that Yash Nijman got the start, and I thought Rodgers better start running for his life now. He gave up one bad pressure on Bosa, and he shut him down the rest of the game, I mean. I don't understand why you put Billy Turner at left tackle. And Billy Turner, solid right tackle. He had a very good season before his injury against the Bears at the right tackle position. Put Billy Turner at right tackle to start the game, or start Dennis Kelly at right tackle, whatever. But Yash Nijman should have been at the left tackle position to start that game. And if he struggles, then you make the switch. But instead, you keep Yash Nijman, who had been one of your top linemen this season, on the bench because you wanted to go with the more experienced hand who's coming back off a knee injury at left tackle. To me, that was overcoaching. And that's the issue. That's the thing that LaFleur does sometimes. LaFleur overthinks things. He overcoaches. He wanted to go with his 5 best offensive linemen for the game instead of the best unit. So, yeah, Billy Turner might be a better offensive lineman than Yash Nijman, but Yash Nijman is a better left tackle than Billy Turner. And we saw in the NFC Championship game last year with Billy Turner at left tackle against a tough, aggressive front that Tampa Bay has, and it was not good. It just was not good. He did not play well at all. So we're going to try that again and see if it works better this time against a pretty good San Francisco front. Go with the guy that's worked. Before the Lions game, and then after Bakhtiari left, you went with Yash Nijman the entire game, entire season in that spot, and he had done an outstanding job. And the offensive line, of all positions in football, the offensive line is one spot you want to leave alone. And I'm sure his offensive coordinator was like, yeah, he can handle it. Let's do it. I got you. Yeah, that sounds good. But the offensive line you want to leave alone. I know they had to have a lot of moving parts all season long at various spots on the line, but the unit they had was working. So don't overcoach it and just go with what's working. That's where I put the blame on LaFleur. The 49ers dominated up front. And yeah, the 49ers played solid on defense, and they've been solid on defense all year. Pretty much the past, other than last year where they had a ton of injuries, the past 3-4 years, they've been really solid on defense. And I kind of already went into Rodgers and went into LaFleur, and then Aaron Jones. And I love Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones is a great football player. I think he's an even better person based off what he presents to us with the Walter Payton Man of the Year nomination for Green Bay. But I would like to know the why. So Rodgers, and it wasn't the best throw, but it was Rodgers' move, and it was the best throw Rodgers could make. To me, it was a hell of a throw. He's rolling out to his right. He's throwing off his back foot, and he's heaving it downfield to somebody that he saw late getting open. And he made the best throw he could make, and Jones had to come back for the ball. But he turns upfield, starts running, and he stops and starts to cut inside before trying to cut back outside. And that little hesitation there allowed the 49er defender to be able to, who had an angle, but to be able to close that gap even quicker. But if Aaron Jones just run a straight line as fast as you can, he's either going to be tackled around the 10 to 5 yard line, in that range, in my opinion, or he gets forced out of bounds just short of the goal line. That is what likely happens. And I will take out of bounds, just short of the goal line, or tackled at the 5 any day of the week. Because that little hesitation he did, allowing the defenders to get him, the Packers now have to use their last time out and try to get the play off. And then Bosa gets a strip sack on the very next play. Packers recover. They have to spike it. And that sack made them lose some yards. Have to spike it. And then the kick gets blocked like I talked about. So I would like to ask Aaron Jones, why did you not just run? I don't get that. And the one blame I put on the defense, and the defense for the Packers played outstanding. They were aggressive, physical. They attacked the football, got pressure on Garoppolo, made his life a living hell. But that final drive, you knew the 49ers were going to run the football no matter what. But the 3rd and 8, I want to say it's 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8, right before the final field goal. The 49ers line up. The Packers put their passing game defense out there, pass coverage defense out there. So smaller guys. Shanahan calls timeout. Shanahan looked things over. He had a pass play called. So, yeah, I guess it made sense at the time. But he calls timeout. When Shanahan called timeout, Barry should have put some bigger bodies in there because it's likely Shanahan's running now. So they line up and they run Deebo Samuel. And there was a play in the 2019 NFC Championship game. I think it was 7-0 at the time. I think it was 3rd down. And they run a trap play. And Morissette gets the ball, runs the trap. The 49ers run it perfectly. He's off to the races for a touchdown. In this game, they run the trap to Deebo Samuel. Rashawn Gary has his pass rushing hat on. He's not worried about the run because it's 3rd down and 7. Why the hell are they going to run the ball here? So he puts his pass rushing hat on. He crashes outside hard on a pass rush angle. The left guard or left tackle on the 49ers pulls. Rashawn Gary crashes down inside, turns his shoulders from the line of scrimmage. So his shoulders are turned. So now he has to make an awkward move to try to get the ball carrier. So he has to reach for him because his body position's off. Couldn't do it. The pulling lineman kicks out even more so on Rashawn Gary as he's trying to get back into the play of things. He gets kicked out. George Kittle crashes down on Campbell to seal off that side. And Alexander and Stokes go to the same gap. They go to the same area. They both jump outside. Well, Stokes, I should say Alexander squared up outside, and then Samuel cut it back inside. So Alexander tried throwing that shoulder into him. It didn't work. And Stokes jumps basically to the exact same gap that Alexander is. If Stokes takes the inside, Alexander takes the outside. You've now cut off Deebo Samuel, and you can try to make a tackle there. Stokes hits him, slows him down enough, wraps him up, grabs him, allows his teammates to get there and bring him down. Instead, they jump to the same area, leaving a lane, and they get the 1st down. They're able to run out the clock, kick the game-winning field goal, game over. So that's the one situation where I kind of point at the defense. So less than 1% on the defense. So where do the Packers go from here? Packers are currently about $48 million over the salary cap right now. And that's before making any moves. That's having your free agents. Their contracts coming off the books. They're at $48 million over the cap, somewhere around that number. They're nearly $50 million over the cap. So where do they go from here? So I'll go more in detail next week on different things they can try to do to try to get under the cap, to try to make moves, ways they can try to keep Aaron Rodgers and Devontae, and also some of your key pieces of your defense like Douglas and Campbell. I'll go more in detail next week on that, but the Packers have a lot of tough decisions to make. And Matt LaFleur did say that the Packers are not rebuilding, and obviously they want Aaron Rodgers back. And me personally, I would love Aaron Rodgers coming back. Aaron Rodgers gives the Packers the best shot of making the playoffs next year and the following year, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that because I don't think Jordan Love is never going to be a competent starting quarterback in the NFL. I think he has the tools to be a competent starting quarterback in the NFL because look at some of the guys playing quarterback in the NFL right now. He definitely can play in the NFL. He's shown that he can play in the NFL. He was just not ready this season. But I would love Rodgers back. But obviously they're going to have to come up with some kind of contract extension with Aaron Rodgers. They're going to have to restructure Bakhtiari and Kenny Clark. They're going to have to release Zadarius Smith and likely Preston Smith. Maybe bring Preston Smith back on a smaller contract. Adrian Amos might need to be cut or extended or renegotiated. Billy Turner's likely gone, which at this point, I like Billy Turner, but I think you can let him go because if Bakhtiari can come back healthy, you have him at left tackle. And I don't see any reason at all why Yosh Nijman cannot play right tackle in the NFL. I don't really see a reason why he can't. So there's things they can do to try to maneuver with the salary cap to get under it, but it's going to be some tough decisions to make. And what do you do with Davante? I think the Packers shown they play, they're 7-0 without Davante during the Matt LaFleur era. And the biggest reason why they're 7-0 without Davante in the Matt LaFleur era, because it forces Aaron Rodgers to have to trust his other targets because he doesn't have Davante to go to. So he's actually playing within the offense. If Aaron Rodgers could play within the offense with Davante on the field, the offense could be even more dangerous. But he's so locked in sometimes to try to get the ball to Davante because he knows he can trust him. But that's besides the point. So that's not the point I'm trying to make right now, I should say anyways. So I'll go more in depth next week on ways the Packers can try to bring guys back and maneuver the salary cap situation. I thought I was going to be ready to do it today, but there's just a lot to look at, maneuver around, think about that I just didn't have the time to put the effort that I felt was necessary for this show. So that'll be one of the main topics next week. How do the Packers get out of this situation? So Jordan Love, and I'm going to get to my thought on Jordan Love. So here's my thought on Jordan Love, and I know the people that have already made their mind up on Jordan Love have already made their minds up on Jordan Love. I'm seeing two extremes. I'm seeing the extreme that Jordan Love is awful. He sucks. He's the worst quarterback ever. He's never going to pan out. The Packers were stupid to even think about drafting him, let alone actually drafting him. And it was a huge mistake. And I've seen that Jordan Love's the future. He's the next man up. He's going to be great. He's going to be awesome. At the end of the day, we just don't know. We truly don't know. And if you're sitting here right now saying that Jordan Love is an awful quarterback and he's never going to be an NFL starter, you've already made up your mind, but you don't know that. We don't know what Jordan Love is going to be right now. But I think what a lot of people are looking at is that Jordan Love is not going to be another Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre, which he doesn't have to be. So I kind of went on a rant to start the show because the last team besides Green Bay that went back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks was the San Francisco 49ers. They went from Joe Montana to Steve Young. So after Steve Young was done playing, there was the quarterback I mentioned earlier, Garcia, and I hate mentioning his name, but he was the next man up. He was the guy after the Hall of Famers And Jeff Garcia did not play horrible in San Francisco. He put up some pretty decent numbers until the salary cap got to hell and whatnot in San Francisco, and they move on. And next thing you know, they have Ken Dorsey trying to start a quarterback in San Francisco. But there was a 4-year window that Jeff Garcia played pretty good football, pretty good numbers. Jordan Love does not have to be Aaron Rodgers for the Packers to be successful post Aaron Rodgers, nor does, if it's not Jordan Love, whoever the quarterback is after Aaron. They don't need to be Aaron Rodgers. They need to run the offense. It's about the pieces you put around them and running your scheme and running your system is what's going to keep you and help you be successful moving forward. Jordan Love, hopefully not the same, viewpoints and opinions of Jeff Garcia, but Jordan Love can be a Jeff Garcia from the quarterback position, and the Packers can be just fine. It's up to Gutekunst, the GM, to draft well, to sign free agents well, to bring, fill holes well. And he's shown he can do that. He brought Rasul Douglas in off a practice squad of Arizona, and Rasul Douglas ended up, getting 2 pick sixes and missing at least 2 or 3 more by dropping interceptions. He brought in Campbell this year, and most people were done with him, thinking he was never going to be a viable option at middle linebacker. Campbell was a difference maker for this Packer team. Alexander, Jenkins, we've seen him draft well. He's got to do a little better in the middle rounds, but he needs to draft better as well. But the Packers can be successful post Aaron Rodgers. The Packers aren't going to fall off a cliff because Aaron Rodgers isn't there anymore. If they bring in the right people, 2022, if Aaron Rodgers is in there, might be a rough patch. But the Packers have a lot more cap room in 2023 and 2024, which is going to, and then if they do trade Aaron Rodgers, they're going to get a crap ton of draft picks. They're going to eliminate almost $20 million off of that salary cap, and they're going to be able to start stacking the defense, which the defense played extremely well a lot this season. They're going to be able to stack that defense with personnel that can get after the quarterback and make things difficult on the quarterback. And they're going to be able to get the pieces around whoever your quarterback is, likely, Jordan Love at this point, because he's the next man up in the quarterback room, to keep things at a consistent level. And the thing is, love him or hate him, Mark Murphy is not going to allow this team to be a consistent, right around 500 or worse team. He's just not. He's about the bottom line. He's about making money. He's about stuffing the coffers, the bank accounts, and whatnot for the Packers. That's what he's about. And if that bottom line starts dropping a little bit because people aren't buying apparel or the attendance starts dipping, he is going to be very quick. And he's got 5 years left as team president, I believe it is, before he's forced to retire. So Murphy's not going to want this team in bad shape before he retires. He wants to go out on the same level as a Bob Harlan. And he would probably love to win that second Super Bowl while he's the team president. Kind of like Rodgers would probably want to win his second Super Bowl with the Packers. So he's got that one more than the other guy. So that's kind of my thought there. So the Packers post Aaron Rodgers are not going to just fall off a cliff. They're not. So with that, going to jump to the. Sorry, Siri wanted to chime in a little bit, I guess, too. But now the AFC Championship game. So you have. So Tim, I don't think they're going to. I think it's going to be a difficult 2022 because they're going to have to make some extremely difficult decisions to get the cap where it needs to be in order to bring in potential experienced players. But I don't think it's going to be a fall off the cliff bad. It's not going to be a rebuild, especially if Rodgers is still around. Because at this point, we don't know where Rodgers is going to go. But as long as Aaron Rodgers is around, we've seen that the Packers are at least going to fight for a wild card at worst with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. So I'm not going to say a rebuild. I think it's going to be more of a retooling. I remember back in 2008, they made the NFC Championship game in 2007. Then in 2008, it's Aaron Rodgers' first year starting, and things didn't go that well. They went 6-10 in his first year starting. Mike Sherman's final year in Green Bay, Ted Thompson's first year as general manager. Ted Thompson had to basically trim a lot of fat from that team because they got in salary cap hell. So Sherman's last year, they didn't have the depth. They go with injuries, they go 4-12. Then in 2006, the 2005 season, they went 4-12. And then 2006 rolls around, they go 8-8. And then 2007, they're playing in the NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field. So I'm not going to go rebuild. And I'm not necessarily going to say they're going to sign experienced players. I think it's going to be, regardless if Rodgers is there or not, kind of that transition year like we saw in 2008 and like we saw in 2005. It's kind of be that transition year while you trim fat and then you start trying to add to it as well. Because one of the biggest issues the Packers are in salary cap hell isn't necessarily because of poor contracts and poor decisions and things like that, which you typically see in what you saw in 2004, 2005, where they had to trim a lot of fat. That was because of poor decisions by Mike Sherman as general manager. As I always say, Mike Sherman, the general manager, got Mike Sherman, the coach, fired. The issue you're going to see for this year is unfortunately because of COVID. There weren't fans allowed in 2020, or limited fans if there were any. So the NFL didn't bring in as much revenue. So the salary cap between last year and this year dropped. Next year, I think it's 208 million as the cap. If the cap would have been what it was supposed to be, I think the Packers would still be over the cap, but it wouldn't be nearly as bad. And it'd be much easier to move money around and, move guys around in order to make it work. But COVID's one of the biggest reasons why the Packers are in the situation they're in. The other reason is they moved a lot of the 2021 salaries into 2022 in order to be able to make the moves like bringing Randall Cobb, bringing Campbell, bringing Douglas midseason, bringing Jalen Smith midseason. They kicked a lot of money into 2022 to bring Preston Smith back, to Darius Smith, to try to make a big push this year into the Super Bowl. It didn't work out, to quote last dance season. So now they're feeling the effects between the cap dropping from last year, and COVID and kicking all that money out. So it's going to be a down year. And then 2023, 2024, the television deal that the NFL just signed with the different networks, that money kicks in. So they'll be able to pay a hell of a lot of money in the next 2 to 3 years. 2022 is just going to be a little lean potentially because they just don't have the money. So NFC Championship game, 49ers and the Rams. The Rams have lost to the 49ers twice. I think the 49ers are going to win this game. And I want to see Matt Stafford win. I do. I like Matt Stafford. I liked him in Detroit, even though he was a Lion. But I think San Francisco is going to win. They're just hot right now. That defense is playing outstanding. The Rams had an injury at left tackle going into Tampa Bay, and I don't know if he's going to play or not. And I just think San Francisco is going to beat the Rams for the third time. And then in the AFC, and and Tim, you brought up Burrow. I love Burrow. I think he is a great quarterback. I was definitely wrong about Burrow leading into the draft. I thought the fact that he played at LSU with Chase and with Jefferson at wide receiver inflated a lot of what he did. because he was throwing into passing windows the size of the Grand Canyon with those two receivers. But he proved me wrong. He is a very talented quarterback. He is shown that he can withstand getting sacked 9 times in one game to win a game. Doesn't happen very often. When you get sacked, I think it was the first time in NFL history that a quarterback got sacked 9 times, and they still won. Um, he's poised, he's confident, and he's definitely going to be a great quarterback in the NFL for a very long time. And the Bengals made the right move bringing Chase in for wide receiver rather than drafting an offensive lineman. They made the right move bringing Chase in because now you get your quarterback comfortable because now you have a wide receiver he already has that connection with to get him even more help. So I like Burrow. I think he's going to. I think it's going to be. I think it's too much too soon to beat Kansas City. I think Kansas City and Pat Mahomes is just too talented. But I think it's going to be Chiefs and 49ers Super Bowl again. And I will say this, one of these predictions is wrong. I don't know which one, but one of these will be wrong. But I think it's going to be 49ers and it's going to be Kansas City in the Super Bowl. And I'll give that prediction on who's going to win when it happens or doesn't happen. So with that, I appreciate you all for watching. Podcast version of this, audio version, will be posted shortly anywhere podcasts are found. If you want to go back and listen, find me on Twitter at Evan with Sports. You can find me on Facebook too, Talking Sports with Evan. And I will be back with you next week. As I mentioned, I will be, and I hope Bengals too, but I just think it's a little too soon. But with that, I'll go a little bit more in depth and detail about what the Packers might do in order to try to maneuver the salary cap a little bit. So, not going to get into the coaching decisions now, but I guess I'll do that next week as more positions probably fill up. With that said, thank you all for watching, and again, thank you for Dakota Mitchell for this logo in the top corner, Talking Sports with Evan logo. We did a great job on it. I'll get back at you all later. Have a good rest of your night and a safe and healthy weekend.